A woman stands frozen in a crowded Istanbul airport terminal, her phone screen illuminating her face as she reads a text message that will end everything she thought she knew about her relationship. That woman is Elçin Sangu, and the message she just received marks the beginning of one of Turkish television's most mysterious breakups. What happened next wasn't captured by cameras, wasn't explained in statements, and wasn't discussed in interviews. It simply vanished into silence. I'm going to take you inside a love story that millions watched bloom on screen, only to witness it disappear without a trace. This isn't another celebrity gossip piece. This is an investigation into what really happened between two of Turkey's most beloved actors, and why their silence might tell us more than any public statement ever could. Before we dive into the unraveling, you need to understand how it all began. Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu weren't just co-stars. They were a phenomenon. When Kiralık Aşk first aired in 2015, the chemistry between them wasn't something you could script or manufacture. Viewers saw something real, something electric, something that transcended the screen. Social media exploded with theories that their on-screen romance had spilled into real life. Fan pages multiplied. Paparazzi stalked their every move. And for years, the question lingered like smoke in the air. Were they or weren't they? Here's where things get interesting, and where most people get the story completely wrong. The public narrative suggests they were together, then they weren't, then everything went quiet. But that's not what happened. Not even close. Let me paint you a picture of what their lives looked like in 2016. Kiralık Aşk was dominating ratings. Barış and Elçin were doing joint interviews, appearing at events together, their body language analyzed frame by millions of fans. There were the stolen glances, the way his hand would find the small of her back, how she'd laugh at his jokes with her entire body. Entertainment journalists who covered them during this period all say the same thing: whatever was between them felt genuine. But neither of them ever confirmed a relationship. Not once. Not in a single interview, statement, or social media post. And that decision, that specific choice to maintain silence about their personal connection, becomes crucial to understanding what happened later. Now, I need you to remember something important as we go deeper into the story. We're dealing with two intensely private people in an industry that demands public confession. That tension between who they were and what was expected of them creates the foundation for everything that follows. The first crack appeared in late 2016, though almost nobody noticed it at the time. Elçin posted a photo on Instagram, a simple image of a sunset, with a caption in Turkish that roughly translates to, "Sometimes the most beautiful things exist in moments we keep for ourselves." Innocuous, right? Except three people close to the production told entertainment journalists that this post came hours after a tense conversation on set. A conversation where Barış allegedly told her they needed to control the narrative about their relationship. Control the narrative. Those three words become a thread we'll follow through this entire story. As Kiralık Aşk wrapped its final season in 2017, something shifted. Barış and Elçin stopped appearing together outside of contractual obligations. The warmth that characterized their public interactions cooled to professional courtesy. Fan accounts noticed. The Turkish press noticed. But again, no statements, no explanations, no drama. Just distance. Here's what makes this so fascinating from a psychological standpoint. In an era where celebrities use social media to craft their narratives, to control their stories, to respond to rumors, Barış and Elçin chose absolute radio silence. They didn't deny anything. They didn't confirm anything. They simply stepped back and let the questions hang in the air unanswered. I spoke with a publicist who has worked with major Turkish celebrities for over 20 years, and she told me something that reframes this entire situation. She said that in Turkish entertainment culture, silence isn't absence of communication. It's a specific type of communication. It's a way of saying this is ours, not yours, without having to justify or explain. But the silence took a different tone in early 2018. Barış was photographed with Gupzozi, a successful actress and screenwriter. The photos showed them laughing together at a cafe in Istanbul, clearly comfortable in each other's presence. Within hours, The images circulated across every entertainment platform in Turkey. And still, nothing from Elçin. No cryptic posts, no unfollows, no public acknowledgement that anything had changed or ended or even existed in the first place. This is the moment most people mark as the breakup, but I'm going to challenge that assumption because the evidence suggests something far more complex was happening beneath the surface. A makeup artist who worked with Elçin during this period gave an interview years later where she described Elçin's demeanor as peaceful, almost relieved. Not heartbroken. Not devastated. Relieved. That word choice matters. It suggests that whatever ended wasn't sudden or shocking to her. It was perhaps expected, perhaps even welcome. Meanwhile, Barış's relationship with Gups became public and official. They attended events together, posted about each other, and eventually got married in 2020. Everything Barış never did with Elçin, he did openly with Gups. And that contrast raises the most compelling question of this entire story. Was the relationship with Elçin ever what everyone assumed it was, or had millions of people, including the press, projected their desires onto two actors with incredible chemistry? Let's look at what we actually know versus what we've assumed. Fact: Barış and Elçin had undeniable chemistry on Kiralık Aşk. Fact: they were photographed together multiple times outside of work. Fact: they never confirmed a romantic relationship. Fact: they stopped appearing together publicly after the show ended. Fact: they both moved forward with their lives and careers without ever addressing what was or wasn't between them. Now the assumptions: that they were definitely in a relationship, that something dramatic caused them to break up, that there was heartbreak and betrayal and all the elements we expect from a celebrity split. But what if the real story is about two people who shared something meaningful, something that didn't fit into the boxes we tried to put it in, and who mutually decided that keeping it private was more important than satisfying public curiosity? There's a beautiful complexity to that possibility that gets lost in the gossip cycle. In 2019, Elçin did an interview where she was asked directly about dealing with public scrutiny of her personal life. Her answer is worth examining closely. She said, "I learned that you can't live your life trying to correct everyone's misunderstandings. Sometimes you have to let people believe what they want to believe and find peace in knowing your own truth." That statement wasn't specifically about Barış, but the timing and context make it impossible to ignore. It sounds like someone who has made peace with being misunderstood, someone who has chosen authenticity over explanation. Around this same time, Barış was promoting his series Kiralık and was asked about his friendship with Elçin. He smiled and said, "Elçin is a wonderful person and a brilliant actress. I'm grateful for everything we created together." Past tense. Grateful for what was created, not what exists. It's subtle, but it's there. These two brief statements are the closest either of them has ever come to addressing what happened, and even then, they reveal almost nothing concrete. Just respect, gratitude, and a clear boundary around their private lives. As years passed, both carved out successful careers independently. Elçin starred in multiple hit series, including Burası Hikayesi and Yasak Elma. Barış continued with Kiralık and other projects, while building a life with Gups. Their paths, once so intertwined, ran parallel but separate. The few times they've been at the same industry events since 2018, witnesses described their interactions as polite but brief. No lingering conversations, no attempts to avoid each other dramatically, just two professionals who share a past and have moved forward. But here's something most people don't know. In 2021, when Elçin was going through a difficult time after her father's health scare, multiple sources claim that Barış reached out privately to offer support. It wasn't publicized. There were no photos or social media posts. Just a quiet gesture of care from someone who once knew her well. That detail, hidden from the public eye, might tell us more about the true nature of their connection than any paparazzi photo ever could. It suggests that whatever they were to each other, whatever happened between them, there wasn't bitterness or resentment in its aftermath. Just two people who shared something significant and found a way to honor it through respectful distance. Now we need to address the elephant in the room. The fans. The millions of people who invested emotionally in Barış'ın, the couple name that trended for years. When Barış married Gups, the reaction from certain fan communities was intense. Some felt betrayed. Others created elaborate theories about how Barış had made a mistake, how he and Elçin were destined to be together, how this was all temporary. This parasocial investment in their relationship, or perceived relationship, created a narrative that neither Barış nor Elçin ever asked for or encouraged. And their silence in the face of it becomes even more powerful when you consider that they could have monetized it, could have teased it, could have used it for publicity. But they didn't. There's integrity in that choice that often gets overlooked in discussions about what happened between them. A film director who worked with Elçin in 2022 shared an interesting observation. He said that Elçin never speaks negatively about her past, about other actors, or about the industry. She has a quality of moving forward without burning bridges or creating drama. He described her as someone who closes chapters gently but completely. That phrase, closes chapters gently but completely, might be the most accurate description of how the Barış and Elçin story ended. Not with a dramatic confrontation, not with public statements or social media wars, but with a quiet, mutual decision to let something beautiful remain in the past. As I've researched this story, speaking to people in the industry, analyzing interviews and public appearances, reading between the lines of carefully worded statements, a picture has emerged that's far more nuanced than they dated and broke up. It's a picture of two young actors who met on a project that changed their lives, who developed a connection that was real but perhaps not sustainable in the glaring spotlight of fame, who cared enough about each other and what they shared to protect it from public consumption, and who eventually went their separate ways with grace, respect, and an understanding that some things don't need to be explained to be valid. The silent breakup, if we can even call it that, wasn't about hiding drama or avoiding scandal. It was about two people refusing to turn their private lives into entertainment, even when doing so might have been profitable. In an industry built on revelation and confession, Barış and Elçin chose discretion. In a culture that demands explanations, they offered dignified silence. And perhaps that's not a mystery to be solved, but a boundary to be respected. So what really happened between them? The honest answer is that we don't know, and maybe we're not supposed to know. Maybe the real story is about recognizing that public figures are entitled to private lives, private feelings, and private decisions about what they share with the world. What we do know is this. Two talented actors created something magical on screen that resonated with millions. They shared a connection that may have extended beyond the cameras. They handled the end of that chapter, whatever it was, with maturity and mutual respect. And they've both moved forward to build fulfilling lives and careers. There's no scandal here. No villain. No dramatic revelation that changes everything. Just two people who understood that not everything needs to be shared, explained, or justified. And maybe, in our current age of oversharing and constant documentation, that's the most radical choice of all. Maybe their silence wasn't an absence of story, but a complete story in itself. A story about boundaries, respect, privacy, and the courage to let people wonder rather than feeding them answers. Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu gave us unforgettable performances, incredible chemistry, and years of entertainment. What they didn't give us was access to every corner of their personal lives, and perhaps we should thank them for that rather than resent it. The silent breakup wasn't a mystery to be solved. It was a masterclass in maintaining dignity, privacy, and respect in an industry that rarely values those qualities. And in the end, maybe that's the most beautiful part of their story. If this deep dive into one of Turkish television's most intriguing untold stories made you think differently about celebrity, privacy, and the narratives we create around public figures, hit that like button and subscribe for more content that goes beyond the headlines. Drop a comment telling me what you think really happened, or share your own perspective on why their silence might have been the most honest thing they could have offered. And remember, sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that remain partially untold, left for us to respect rather than solve.